Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Moon Knight Review, Episode 2. I am Oscar as my daddy, Travis Snell, and I'm joined by...
The Scarab, Kirklin Patzer.
I'm the Adam Hartcaster, Dylan Muss.
I'm the Psycho Colonel Sanders, Taylor Field.
Psycho Colonel Sanders. Well, there you go. But yes, we are back for Episode 2. Thank you to everyone that checked out Episode 1. It was, after less than a week, a top 20 episode for us. So a big thank you to everyone that checked out. Hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoy this one. Tons of stuff's popping off. We have a new side quest out. There'll be a newscast at some point. We got 4 reviews dropping this weekend. We have Halo, Everything Everywhere. We got Ambulance. We got Sonic. Just a plethora of stuff happening. Where can they find us all?
Ladies and gentlemen, with your internet connection in the search bar, GeekVerse.ca is our home base, GeekVerseCast is our Twitter, and GeekVerse on our Facebook.
Boom. Links down below where you can find us, audio, video, podcast feeds, rate, review, and most importantly, head over to Patreon and support us, because the more you support us, as you can see, the more content you get, plus ad-free, early episodes, a whole wide variety of tiers and whatnot. So check that out. Lots of good things happening. Dylan, I know you just asked good side quest, but then you and Taylor are gonna have a great side quest next week because you guys have been playing Star Wars. Obviously, no spoilers on the thoughts, but good times so far.
Some technical issues on the Switch, but otherwise it's going well. They crashed in the first level, so that's a quick spoiler. But
did you buy the Switch version just because of like you could take that anywhere, like easy transferable?
Yeah, that, and I have multiple controllers for the Switch, which I don't have for
There you
Xbox.
go.
Well, I do, but the other one has drift, so it's just a whole mess over here with hardware for me. But anyway, yeah, that'll be
week.
next episode.
There you go. So yeah, lots of good stuff popping off. Taylor Field, you lead the way. What did you think of Moon Knight Episode 2? Non-spoilers, of course.
Oh, gosh. I mean, it just kind of sheds a little bit more light on the context of things and what we're dealing with. I felt like I was much more, like, coherent and following along with what's going on in this episode, and I enjoyed it a lot more than last week's, and that's definitely a good thing. I mean, everything development-wise for every different character seems to kind of be running full steam ahead, and I liked certain progressive things with these characters over last week because I feel like we got a lot more spotlight on certain aspects of these characters and dialogue and everything like that between characters and such. It just kind of exposed a lot more to what's going on and filled in the gaps, and it just got me more excited. There was one sequence that took place. I was just like, oh, this is just so cool. I'm really digging like the aesthetic and just the whole vibe that's just kind of going on here, and yeah, it's just a good episode.
I gotta say, I love that we got a really nice Moon Knight background, but when it's all 4 of us, you see shit. It's just like a bunch of...
You can see the shadow in there between you and me.
Yeah, exactly. Kirklin Patzer, Episode 2.
Yeah, I agree with Taylor. I definitely like this episode more than the last one. I think they're doing a good job of just building upon what they laid the grounds for last week. And yeah, no, I'm just blown away by Oscar Isaac. Honestly, he's just absolutely killing this role. So he's fantastic. The cinematography too is really just stand out for me in these last 2 episodes of just different shots that they have that just, I don't know, it's really artsy, and I've just really noticed it. So yeah, it's really awesome. I'm loving all the Moon Knight stuff. It's just really, really exciting to like dive into this new character for me, at least, because I just don't have much experience with him. And yeah, no, it's awesome. I'm loving it.
Dylan Muss.
Yeah, for me, I think, the first episode really set the scene, set the tone. And then I feel like this episode's like, oh, all right, we got to go back and draw in some of those details. Definitely some scenes that are just exposition, but even just filling in the backstory in some fun ways. So yeah, I think definitely on same vibe with Taylor. I feel like I'm kind of understanding what's going on now, and I'll be able to follow along from here on out without kind of being confused, which I wonder if that was going to be a thing. You're just playing through the whole show if you don't really understand what's going on. But I feel like from here on out, we'll know what's going on with Oscar Isaac and his characters and just the world in general, the other characters that we got going on. So yeah, I think it was a good second episode to fill in those details.
Yeah, no, I guess I agree with the majority that I liked it better than the first episode, but I said that before. The first episode's a lot. It was like it was some crazy stuff, but it was a lot of setup of like, okay, this is Mark Spec. Well, I guess this is Stephen Grant, and these are like a few things of why something's not right. You got Moon Knight in here. This definitely was kind of coloring the pages in, and I did like that. I think there's some things that again we don't learn too much about him, but I'm really liking Ethan Hawke in the role. Anytime he's on screen, he's just creepy. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I think we got to see a lot more of Oscar Isaac's range this episode. He not saying he was bad last week, but this is one of these episodes that shows like why you go to hire a guy like this, because obviously there's some heavy scenes and whatnot. There's a couple like Moon Knight continuity, or I guess comics canon stuff that I'm questioning of where we're going. A few with the personalities, a few with one personality in particular. But yeah, I think they're doing still good as far as, yeah, you learn some stuff, but they're still showing you the mystery box element of right when you get your answers for this. It's like, okay, there's a question for this, and this. So I think it ends in a really interesting place. I really liked the back half of the episode again, but the first was even really good. But yeah, I think the best part about this is it seems like a show that even myself who's read the comic books, you don't know exactly where you're going to be in the next scene. Whether that's, you don't know what character you're going to be, you don't know what location you're going to be, you don't know what you're going to be fighting. So I think that's a good thing that luckily I've not had. We've done these midnight reviews, and I've had times before where it could be loopy or might fall asleep, Boba Fett. But this is not. So far, both episodes I've been wide awake because I think it's good at like keeping you on your toes. And yeah, even for next week, I think it gives us the direct path of where we're going, but we don't exactly know why. So I'm really enjoying it so far. Everything that I have are not necessarily spoilers, but questions as far as where we're going would be more spoilerific. So I will save it for that. So anything else you guys want to say before we start dishing out some details?
Let's get into it.
I was just gonna say quickly, I feel like I'm a little bit more
Kirklin
confident on like just the 6 episodes, at least for this one, because it just felt like they were able to cover a lot and just 2 episodes. I don't know.
Well, the director said he viewed 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6 as like 3 movies. So this was like the ending of movie 1. That was his,
Right.
and that definitely had that vibe of this was like a little mini arc. And I do agree with you, especially. Like, there's one thing I don't know how the Moon Knight fans are going to react to it, but there's definitely one question we talked about before leading up to this, like, oh, how are they going to deal with this character? And something is dealt with pretty quickly, and I think that's good for the show, but I think that's a little disappointing for some people like myself. I'm very torn about it, so I'm excited to talk about it. But yeah, it does feel... It feels like we got a lot, and I guess it did help. Like, it's 53 minutes, but still, it's more like 46 minutes or 45 minutes with the credits, but still felt like a juicy, like meaty episode. Felt like we got lots of content in it and we learned a lot. It didn't, at least that's one thing too. I feel like other shows we've talked about before where not every episode was a filler, but maybe not the whole episode was needed, where this doesn't feel like there's any second kind of wasted as far as moving the plot forward. So that's good, because in 6 episodes, yeah, it's, you got time, but we've seen a few finales and endings now where that's not been the case. So all right, we're going to get into spoilers after this ad break, and you're going to hear from one of our sponsors, so we will be right back. And we're back. So I'm going to let you guys lead the floor, like where you want to start, because I have one big thing, but I'm going to save it. Taylor has fingers up.
I mean, we get Mr. Knight, which I had.
That's what I was gonna save, but fuck me, we're just gonna start with it.
I had no idea the concept of how this character works, and I just figured, okay, it's just like it's just Moon Knight, but just in a different kind of like snazzy looking style, like apparel. Like I didn't know and understand it, but now I understand. So.
He understands.
I don't understand.
So so Mr. Knight, if people don't know, we've talked about Mr. Knight was the guy that had the suit on. He had just the head, piece on. And he had the batons. That's not how Mr. Knight works at all in the comic books. The way like Stephen Grant is like, oh, I have a suit and I'm no. Mr. Knight is like a complete separate entity, and that's why I'm very surprised that they. So like. I get it. It is fun. It's a nod to the comic books. Like, look, it's the Mr. Knight costume, but that costume usually means a lot. He's a detective. He is the guy that kind of has a bit more control of the personality, so you can kind of talk to them. But the best way I've described him before is, Taylor won't get this reference, but he's a lot like Hannibal in the show Hannibal, where he's very he's friendly, but you know he's up to something. Like, he's always deceiving. He's always like keeping something withheld. So this whole segment of him just getting the suit and like, oh, I can fight, and being like Jim Carrey's The Mask for a little bit, that's not how Mr. Knight is. So I don't know if that's going to evolve in the future, or this was just, we're not going to do that, but everyone loves the look of the suit, so let's just have a nod to it. So
Is it the same thing in the comics then, where the Moon Knight, as we know Moon Knight, is just Mark Spector with like powers? Because that's the way I took it, is that like each personality has like a super suit.
That's exactly how I took it.
It's
And
too.
so is
kind
it
of-
the same thing for Mark Spector and Moon Knight as it would be, or like how is that related to what we saw with Mr. Knight?
I feel like when Mr. Knight has usually always been a separate entity, Mark Spector and Moon Knight, there's been times where they've been kind of together, but to me, Moon Knight is almost more like the embodiment of Khonshu, and Mark Spector, because usually Mark Spector is in the Stephen Grant role. What's going on? I'm trying to figure this all out and everything like that. He's usually the main.
I'm trying to
no.
figure
You
it
got
out.
conchued. Oh, he's back.
So Mark Spector's usually the main character, like Stephen Grant, trying to figure it all out, and that's why Stephen Grant, Jake Lockley, they're just kind of separate entities as well. So they're taking it like the route you guys are describing, of each identity has their superpower beam, but that's not really the way it is in the comic books, and that's why I was going to ask, even of like I'm not sure. At some points, they almost insinuated that Stephen Grant was the prime person, but then they insinuated that it was Mark. So I am wondering, when Moon Knight's gone or Khonshu's gone, who's in control?
Yeah.
Does Stephen Grant die per se? Does Mark Spector die per se? I don't know, but yeah, this is definitely more of a slant they're taking for this show. I'd say the whole power set tied to somebody.
It seems to me like Stephen Grant just spawned within the last couple months or something like that, and Mark was who Oscar Isaac's body was for his whole life. And obviously we'll see if there's other personalities that pop in there, but I kind of like that. I was expecting that Moon Knight and Mr. Knight would all be different personalities, so it's kind of a twist from what I was expecting, but obviously I don't have the comic book background. But I guess just to a read of the room, what do you guys think that Moon Knight and Mark Spector are the same than Steven and Mr. Knight are? Because I definitely took it that way after this episode.
I'm curious going forward how if Mr. Knight evolves a little bit from what we've just seen, whether that's Steven in the shoes or it gets crossed over with Mark. Because I don't know. I feel like right now I see no reason why they can't all kind of be Mr. Knight and Moon Knight, just like the different version. But I mean, we've only seen Mark have the actual Moon Knight outfit, right? Because he swaps in the bathroom and then he swaps in the fight in this episode. So yeah, it could go that way, but I am curious if they change it up. Maybe not next episode, but later on in the season.
Because to me, it was strange last week when he's like, oh, give me control, I can help you out. And then when they give Mark control, he just turns into Moon Knight. So now I think with that and this episode, it definitely is like, okay, Mark Spector has the Moon Knight power and stuff like that. And I don't know how I feel about that, but I guess I understand, because Stephen Grant is our lead here, but I did kind of like the idea of them maybe being a bit more separate. So, and it's funny because we had talked about a newscast before about Mr. Knight, that's like usually like Mr. Knight was introduced, like under 10 years, like 2016, that concept of Mr. Knight, and it took a lot to get to that. So I was always worried of like, man, in 6 episodes, I don't think we'll have the time to, that'll feel really rushed. So I think this is a smart way of doing it, of, oh, hey, it's just kind of an add-on to Steven, but at the same time, I think they are kind of robbing a potential future character because
I guess
I
it
don't.
could morph though, right? Like
It
he could turn
could.
into his own form over
I
time.
guess I just don't know. I guess Stephen Grant's going to start being a detective or something, or I don't know. That's where I don't. I think they're going to adapt it more, but I think you're right that I did fully take it as Mark Spector is Moon Knight. Pretty like that's their kind of one.
Yeah, he doesn't lose control when he transforms.
No,
Yeah.
no. What about you? So yeah, Tara. Now I've clarified. That's so Mr. Knight. How it's going in the show is not exactly how it's done in the comic books. It's just I think they're doing their own type of version of it here.
Right. I'm kind of more in line with what Dylan said there. Is just I took it as each different personality that's inside Steven's mind has their own they have retained their consciousness, but when they put on the suit they have their own like physical apparel designation. I don't know what you'd call it. Their own look.
Alter
Bring your
ego.
own suit.
Yeah.
Their own alter ego super suit. Yeah. So I quite enjoyed I love the suit though. I mean, I love seeing it and everything like that. And again, when he does that relinquishing and swaps to Mark, and then Mark just puts the suit on, it's just like the tone shifts, and it's just fantastic. But then again, Layla obviously knows about this, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. Okay, how much does Layla know about what's going on here?
Well, so this is probably like a trope that like not probably it is a trope that happens in all these movies, TV shows, right? Where they tell the character that, okay, I'll explain everything. Just give me a second, and they do that right on the bike. He's like, let's just get to my lot, and I'll explain everything. I feel like he's doing a terrible job of explaining everything because it doesn't feel like he's even taking a crack at it. That's where I'd say like it was a little tropey for me of just it's lots of generic, just like lots of changes are happening, or I don't really understand what's happening. It's just like because what happens is we meet her, get on the bike, we go there. Later on in the episode, it's like Taylor's saying, it sounds like she's insinuating like bust out the suit, blah blah. So if she kind of knows there's some freaky stuff going on, I feel like there's part of her that might be able to accept, oh, you have, DID, you got multiple personalities going on up here. If she doesn't, if she just thinks, oh, it's Mark, then I kind of understand. But now I'm kind of mixed as far as if she thinks there is an Egyptian god living in him, why is she being so just like kind of I don't know. I felt like eventually she started to figure out or buy that, okay, he's not putting on an act, Steven is a person, but I think maybe it took too long. And like I said, I also didn't like Steven. I just felt like he was just walking in circles. I get that this is going really fast and everything, but I thought we were going to get him to sit down and explain like because how much you got to say if I know you think I'm lying, but I have these thoughts, this is my personality, this is all this, but I feel like he was not doing that at all, and the show was on purpose just trying to delay some sort of reveal or something.
That's fair.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There's even something I've realized with like Steven going back and forth with Mark like in the mirrors. Like I feel like it's just a lot of like, oh, like give me the body, no, and then it just like goes on, and then it's like give me the body, no,
Which
and then it gets to the end of the
version do you
episode.
Do you mean like when Steven has control or when Mark had control?
When
of the
Steven
body?
has control, and then but yeah,
Both.
it's kind of been
That's
both.
their conversation.
But even
you
like
know?
last episode, it was like a slow descent into Mark actually like communicating with him, but it was just like, give me the body, and then he doesn't, and then right at the end of the episode, he's like, okay, I'll do it, and then he saves him, and then it like rolls credits. So like I hope that's not just like a pattern every episode. They're just constantly like, give me the pattern. I know now it's Mark in the driver's seat, but I don't know. It was getting a little bit annoying, but
I did like though the conversation when Steven was put in the kind of whatever the swapped place,
yeah,
and he's just talking about like how disheveled he feels and how just cold it is. I really like that describing of you.
They're
Almost,
actually having like a conversation as opposed to
Yeah.
just being like actions going on.
Bickering,
Just like
yeah.
give me the suit. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and I like that it kind of gives you a sense of, okay, of course you want to be prime, you want to be in control, but also when you're non-control, it's not a good place to be. And the shot I really liked is at the end when they're in Egypt and Mark is just there. He has like, I think he's drinking or something like that. And then when he looks in the mirror, Steven's like, he looks like he's cold. He has a blanket around him and stuff like that. So I liked that kind of duality of seeing, okay, now Steven's in there. And I think you'll get less arguing on the body. I think you'll get a lot of Steven next week maybe whining about being in there because it's going to be probably painful. But that's where I think to me this episode was, I hit the peak. I was fine with it. Sounds like you were a bit more getting tired of it. I think it worked for me, like all of it, but I could see if it keeps going on. I don't need them to keep arguing about the body.
Yeah.
But I get that you want you want to stress that, right? Because it's the first, like, technically you saw Mark for the first time in like last 2 minutes of last week,
True.
right? So
Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely a little nitpicky thing, but
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we do here.
One thing
that's
I
what we
was
do.
just trying to figure out the rules on is
Mm-hmm.
who can see what. So it seems like when he transforms into Moon Knight, everyone can see that, but I guess the camera, when they went through the video camera stuff at the museum, they didn't have a shot of the bathroom to see him transform into that costume.
It's illegal
And-
to have cameras in bathrooms, Dylan. You can't do that.
But it's legal to have reinforced steel doors.
It's
in
illegal to have them in the
bathrooms.
stalls, I guess, but but I don't know, maybe not in the bathroom. Anyway, yeah, so no, he didn't see that part.
Mhm.
But then these creatures are invisible, but well, except for Stephen Grant or Moon Knight, he can see them. But then I'm guessing also the guy who summons them can see them. And would it be
Yeah.
just them as the Avatar and the previous Avatar, or like can the other cult people see it? Layla
Well,
can't. What do you guys
Layla
think
was
is
able
going on
to
there?
because Layla splashed that debris on it and saw its
Well,
head.
no, but she
right?
couldn't like see it. Like she
Initially.
could figure out something was there, but she
Yeah.
couldn't see it by default.
I think she was just going off the projection of he's getting choked. Where would this thing be in unison of that?
because it exists right somewhere in the world.
even
but, I mean,
I
who
had
can
a-
physically see it?
But even I had a question of like, okay, so Steven saw it last week when he was running away. I felt like when he was Mr. Knight, could he see it or could he not? Like, were they making it invisible for us, the
he
viewer?
could see it.
He can see it
Okay.
because he's talking like quick.
Yeah,
like
you're
a
right. Okay.
Butterfly
Yeah.
sting like
Because there
bee
was times
thing.
you would see him with that, and I was trying to. I thought, are they?
I think
trying
he's just
to
a
insinuate-
clumsy fighter.
Well,
where
yeah.
he's at.
Yeah. Hey, he got one punch, and stuff like
It was a
that.
good punch. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I feel like if you have some Egyptian powers in your body, somehow you can see this thing. And then if you don't, like Layla, I don't think she could. I don't think the public could. Even though they could see this guy running around in a white cape, I don't think they could see the jackal, which I thought was a great play on last week as far as like I like the cameras when they just see Stephen Grant running around the museum like
And
a
he stares
madman.
down. at
Yeah.
the- at the
Yeah,
camera
yeah,
at the
that
end.
was great. That's not me.
That's
No,
not me.
that's you. Yeah, no, it's not. And I like that too because now I feel like I said this before. It was always going to be this way, but I like that. At least for the first 15 minutes, they're trying to play up that maybe it's just all in Steven's head because when they didn't
Yeah.
show it, it's like what is going on? Now I think we're past the point of it's not in the head. You saw that staff get thrown down. There's big purple smoke. You saw the jackal. You saw him. So I think it's fully like okay, this is what's happening. But that's how I take it. As Egyptian power, people can see these jackals, and sorry for them.
I don't know if this is inconsistency, but I thought it was interesting that what's the name of the villain? I keep forgetting his name.
Arthur
Arthur.
Harrow or
Arthur.
something.
So
yeah.
Arthur, we're assuming can see the creatures that he's spawning. Maybe he
Mhm.
just does the magic and then he can't actually see them. But he can't see Khonshu, and obviously only Moon Knight can see Khonshu. So I guess that's different kind of magic things. It makes sense, I guess, if only Moon
Yeah.
Knight can see him. But you would think if like these people who were avatars could see these things, that maybe he should also be able to see Khonshu. But I don't know if that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think it's because I guess he could be bringing these jackals up with some of his dark magic and things
Yeah.
like that. Where Khonshu, which we did learn that him and Khonshu used to be conjoined and stuff, and he was talking about last week about being betrayed and everything. So it sounds like that's probably the culprit right there. That him and Khonshu had some sort of partnership deal or something like that. And I like that because I already liked him last week, but I love that Khonshu would say something and he would tell Steven this and he would tell him to question him. And I like that because already I feel like we know that Khonshu and him will probably eventually work out. They're heroes and stuff, but like in the moment when we're building up these characters, I like that Arthur is putting some doubt onto Khonshu because why should we trust this guy? He is kind of rude. He is kind of creepy and stuff like that. So I hope we get a little more context of how their partnership happened. But I think it did make him a bit more interesting, Arthur, as far as he's literally been conjoined to Khonshu at one point, and he has firsthand knowledge and experience with them. So
Yeah, great way to connect the hero and the villain in this case.
Yeah.
I really like that addition. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Taylor, anything on Arthur this week? Anything? We didn't see him too much. We got to see a bit more of his. He has quite a few people of this cult. They got like a whole I don't know, city block taking
He
over. And
fucking
they're
loves that lentil soup.
growing
I can tell you that.
tomatoes. I love that line. See, well, goat. Yes, it is. I love the little, just weird humor this show has, like little off lines like that. But yeah, what do you think about Arthur so far?
Oh, I mean, he does the cliche villain thing where he's trying to like come off as like, "Hey, I'm your buddy, I'm your pal, and this is what's going on," and all this jazz. And he's like, I like that he was calling out Khonshu. I really enjoyed that, and it made Khonshu feel like he was less godly than what he was initially. um, so there's a few lines that had me chuckling there, but yeah, the whole tone just changes in that scene when all the people start standing up after they had some lentils, and he just starts like dealing or dishing out like, I need the scarab, can I speak to Mark, and all this jazz. And then Layla just comes out of the fucking thin air, just shows up. So
I like that they put him in the car to try to like coax out, is he faking this or is it real? Because he's like, oh, I got an understanding of your situation now. Because he could hear him fully talking to Mark and like having these conversations within himself. Where before they might think like, oh, is Mark just fucking with us? Is this just a secret identity? But I like that they did between that and last week with the scales going back and forth. Figured out, okay, no, this isn't a show, and that's where I like that. As of right now, Stephen Grant is like the weaker link of the bunch. So I liked Arthur, again, classic villain trope of like trying to go after that one, right? Like, oh yeah, can I speak to him? And I know where you've been. And I did like throughout the episode how Khonshu was just sitting around. Like you just see him up in a wall, up on a roof. I liked the presence always, because that's how it is in the comics. It's very much like a symbiotic relationship, and I liked that he would just be in the background, just chilling, not always like up in your face or saying stuff. So.
and he's throwing a little tantrum too. He knocked the bakery trays off that little shelf, and everyone like.
Yeah, and Arthur's like, don't bother, ignore him and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
so is his power in the physical world limited to just like little gusts of wind? Is that what we're taking it as? Or can he get like really angry and do some like big explosion or something?
I feel like he can do. Well, I feel like it's a mix. I feel like it's one of these. It's gonna be one of those things. I feel like in a few episodes we're gonna talk about like, does this fit or whatnot and stuff.
Just whatever they need for the scene.
Yeah, there's times where he can go pretty godlike, but again, it's always kind of attached to Mark or the Avatar, right? So. Let's see. How is the direction? Only Game says, how is direction overall, given the directing duo of this episode and episode 4 will be directing Loki season 2? Kirklin shot a lot of the cinematography. I thought directing was fine. Anything I have problems wise, I don't have too many problems. My only thing is like maybe some of the stuff we talked about that could be problems down the line. My only thing is for me is just I gotta see what they do with Mr. Knight, because I get adaptation and stuff, but there's still like a little disappointment if like that's just what he is, if he's just like another cool costume and stuff. But this episode at least gives me good vibes for them doing Loki season 2, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the cinematography was great. Like just in that the storage locker, that whole set piece I really liked. And you mentioned not liking the scene on the bike so much, or at least just kind of the retreading the same thing over and over again, or him not getting to the point. But I really like the camera angles on that. And it's funny because he's had so many bad experiences with mirrors in these last few days, but I like that they're using that mirror to show her face. And it's a good way because like that's the first time you're seeing her really, and so you're slowly getting introduced to her, and then it's in the apartment you kind of see her face fully walking around. They're having a full conversation. So, and it's kind of it's just an awkward position where he can't really see her face fully. So I think the cinematography is solid overall.
Yeah, absolutely. The other scene I'd shout out for that would be probably, I mean, the museum chase scene, just like through the different camera angles. That was really good, and then also like the fight at the end with Mr. Knight, the Jackal, and Layla, and it was just switching to like aerial views sometimes, and then it would go down to like where they were, and it was just it was awesome because it just showed like the full range of the fight arena, basically, like the area that's at play, and it was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, the two shots I really liked was at one point when he took his name, like they fired him, they let him go, they offered him some help and everything like that, and then he puts his name tag down, and they got this shot of the glass, and it's like his head in between his legs and the hand, so it's kind of like symbolizing the two people. That was really cool.
Great.
And then the other one was when he had the gun out and he put the gun on the bed. And it was just Mark's eyes on the gun at first. Because at first I thought it was like Moon Knight or something, because the eyes were like really defined and really up there. But it was just Mark's like, you need to let me, like Kirkland said, you need to give me the body. That's gonna. I feel like that's gonna be a meme later on this week. Like that, you got to give me the body and stuff. But yeah, that the reflection in the gun was really cool, and it was great because it was just like almost anything with a reflection, Mark Spector is gonna be up in his face, like just trying to get his attention, and especially because like Stephen Grant, I think will want to get out because that's a scary place for him. Where Mark legitimately feels him and Layla are in grave danger if he doesn't get out, which he's probably right, because at the end of the scene, he kind of dispatched that jackal, I'd say, pretty easily. Now, I don't have a problem with that because I feel like Moon Knight, I would assume, has dealt with this a few times, and last week he also just destroyed it. But the second he took over, the goal was to get the thing away and kill it, and he did that very easily. He ran, and I thought all that stuff was good. Like we've seen that, like it's the background of this episode, him jumping the buildings, but all the stuff of him running, the reflections, all like the suit just looks so good. The suit, like anytime you see the suit in action, it's fantastic. He just spikes this jackal, and that was it. Again, I'm very interested to see the screen time all put together of the suit when the series ends, because I can't remember if it was last week or Marvel Alliance when I was talking about. I don't think we're going to, maybe the finale, but I don't think we're getting that suit much. I think they're going to use it very sparingly. Like already 2 episodes, we've seen it for, 15 seconds last week and maybe a minute this week, somewhere in there. So.
Yeah, no, I think the suit looked phenomenal. Yeah, I was pumped to see that just rooftop jump scene, the one we had seen deliver us the logo, and yeah, no, it was fun to just see him running around. I think the nighttime helps. It'll be interesting if they ever have him during the day, but I guess that's not really the Moon Knight way.
Right.
You'd be in the middle of the night for the Moon Knight.
And
The
what are they?
sunlight.
What are his projectiles called again? The moon glaives. They have a fun name. Don't they?
Yeah, fuck. Someone in the chat told us what it was. Travis probably knows. But
I
exit
like
stage
that we
left.
got to see. We just got to see a little bit more of his tools, him running
The
around. and that
batons,
stuff.
yeah.
The crescent darts.
Crescent
There you
darts.
go.
There you go.
Shows to Ultimate Alliance. But I like that he just has, because I was wondering, like, how does he get multiple of them? Is it like a boomerang or something? But he just like has them on his chest and he just pulls out
Yeah.
like one or two at a time. Like I don't know how many he's packing in there, but they're pretty thin, I guess, so he can stack a few of them in there nicely.
They're made of adamantium, which is I didn't
Ooh,
realize that.
of
That's
course.
kinda cool.
Not confirmed in the show yet. So
No.
Let's hang on there.
MarvelFandom.com
the show.
confirmed, not the show.
Which is like, I get it, because like adamantium's like the strongest metal Marvel, but I just feel it's weird that like it should be made of some sort of Khonshu magic metal.
Is
you know,
that
but
adamantium
it's
bronze.
stronger
It's like
than
Egyptian.
I thought, well,
I think-
vibranium's kind of like a juice too. It's like just like everything.
yeah, he just.
It's like lava. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like they're for different uses, but I feel like if you're just looking for bronze and fighting, adamantium's the way to go. Like you got a man made out of it, and he can't die, so it's not too bad. So
I've seen him die.
But you always that's what, that's true. I forgot that did happen. Let's take another ad break and then we'll be right back. And we're back. So Kirklin, I didn't get your thoughts on Arthur. Again, we didn't learn much of him this week, but Arthur.
Yeah, I agree with what you were saying. How I feel like he doesn't have to do much to just come off like really creepy in this role. There's a lot of shots of his hair just like blowing in the wind when he's just like standing there with his cane. It's just like, Ethan Hawke just with that hair. I feel like I haven't really been able to fully just see it as Arthur. It's still Ethan Hawke for me, but I think he's still doing good. I'm still I feel like he's a threat. I feel like if you just have a regular dude as the main, or supposedly the main villain in the show, he can come off or it's important if he has that fear factor, as a big villain. I feel like he's doing that even just with someone that, I guess he does have powers. That cane or that artifact, I feel like might be the only reason why he has those powers, but still he has a lot of influence being like a cult leader. So yeah, I'm still threatened by him.
Well, even then, like he has the cane, but he still has like the judgment on his wrists and stuff. Like that has to be some sort of magic, right? And that's where I'm wondering too. Is like once Khonshu left him, did he keep some powers? Did he have these powers already in Khonshu and him formed? Maybe that's why Khonshu thought it was a good idea, because he's like, oh, look, there's a super powered person. So I'm interested to hear more of that. I did like the kind of play on, if people, I'm not sure if people have seen the movie, but Steven Spielberg's Minority Report, and that's that Tom Cruise cop movie where you can like they have these like weird people in a bath, everything, but they could like project and they'd be like, oh, Dylan Musk is going to kill this person on this day, and they go and arrest him before the murder happens. And there's this whole argument of like, well, how's that right? Because you don't know for sure if that's going to happen. You're taking someone's free will away. And I really liked them kind of alluding to that in this situation where Arthur's like, well, I'm doing good because I'm getting rid of all the bad people before they can do anything bad. But then it seems like
I took that as kind of like a reference to Winter Soldier, actually, when they were Shield was going to launch those helicarriers, right? And it was to like, oh, we can attack the targets before they do anything.
Yeah. Difference is that's like Nazis being like pretty much kill
Yeah.
These are Nazis being like, oh, we got to kill people before they can stop us. This obviously Arthur's bad, but his idea is, well, I'm just gonna like get the sinners before they sin, right? And Steven's like, well, it doesn't really work that way. They're like they're innocent people, because we talked about it last week, right? When he killed that old woman and he says like, oh, you're bad. And she's like, I've been good my whole life. And he's like, maybe it's going to be something you're going to do in the future. And then he just killed her. And I was like, oh, wow. Like she didn't make that choice. But now we see what he's operating under is, stop the bad before it can happen, which, there's an argument for that, but not the way he's going about. But I was impressed that he kicked a ball in this episode, because, he has glass in those shoes. So that like a soccer ball came to him. Like, oh, that's impressive.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Almost forgot about the glass in the shoes.
Oh yeah, every day it's happening.
Every day.
Let me pull up some notes. Anyone have anything specifically to go to?
I just want to pinpoint All in the Game's comment here. He killed that guy at the end there without judgment. I'm pretty sure he did give judgment to that guy. It was just like really expedited, like the sequence. Cause
I'm with All in the Game. I think he just killed him. And he's like, I can give you food and clothing, and he just killed them. Because I think
he's like,
at the end of the
okay, good trade. No, okay, I'm gonna kill you.
He
yeah.
couldn't leave any witnesses in that.
Like, I think at the end of the day, he's all for judging, but that's gonna be the villain trope, right? Where he's just jealous, like not jealous. He just wants to get what he needs. And we did learn the Scarab. What it does is it's a Jack Sparrow compass. It leads you to not what you want, but whatever. It's gonna lead us to something. I don't know what it's gonna be, but now we know the purpose of why they want that. So
They look pretty cool in action. It's like a golden snitch compass. So yeah,
oh, from the great game of Quidditch, right?
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I thought that was cute. The CG on that was good, and the CG was generally good in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple little things where I could poke holes, but nothing like last episode, so that's good. I wanted to quickly shout out the opening or the early scene in the museum. I like that we didn't overstay our welcome there. Like we didn't get that annoying boss coming back in and tearing down on him again. And we didn't really need that stuff. We just I just like that we kind of got this buddy moment where they went and watched the tape, and I just like all the reactions. Like, are you crying there? He's like, yeah, a little bit. I just thought it was funny, and I don't think they overstayed their welcome there in the episode. We kind of got moving on to some new stuff. So, yeah, I liked that scene as well.
Well, I think that's almost like what Kirklin was referring to, where it's like it's a longer episode, but there's quite a bit happening. That you easily could have like sat in that museum for 15 minutes, and I really didn't want that. Especially when he woke up, I was like, "Uh-oh, we're going right back here." Okay,
Right.
and like you said, it moved along pretty quickly. Layla literally just picked him up. What do you guys think about Layla so far? Obviously, we didn't like get tons of her, but we got like enough, I feel like, of her personality. We learned that they are married. Well, her and Mark are married. She's been trying to get a hold of him, like she said last week. So what are your thoughts on Layla so far?
I'm not too impressed so far. I
Is
don't
this
know.
a character thing or an acting thing or a bit of both?
Maybe a little bit of both, but mostly the character thing. I feel like it'd be tough to judge just on like this one episode for her acting performance. But yeah, I don't know. For the character, I feel like the first impression didn't just blow me out of the water. I was mostly just, she was overshadowed by Oscar Isaac. I was just so engaged with him the whole episode, and then she was just like going off of his Stephen Grant role, and yeah, I don't know. Hopefully she wins me over as the season goes on, but as of right now, I think she's okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I see
Yeah.
where you're coming from. There isn't a ton of meat on the bone on this episode. But I'm definitely intrigued because there's just a lot of questions I have for her now in terms of, well, really like their backstory. Obviously, they're married and whatnot, but I want to know like what are these adventures that they were going on? She used the word adventure, I think. I'm curious what these adventures are and where her role is in it, and like what her background is. Because if she's rolling with Moon Knight, she's got to be pretty badass in her own right. But she wasn't really doing much. She was kind of just running away from combat encounters, and fair enough. The thing is invisible, but yeah, I don't know. I want to see more of her backstory, and I mean, it's even we lose her at the end of this episode, and then presumably Moon Knight just pieces out to a different country. So I don't know I don't know how we're gonna follow that character down the line. Like maybe she was just out of the room when he was chilling there, having a drink, and she's actually there in Egypt with him. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious to see how they're gonna write her into Egypt, and maybe that's just a short little trip, and that's not like the rest of the series. I don't know, but yeah, I see where Kirklin's coming from, but I'm intrigued enough.
I still think, and I don't know if it could be next week, but I think there's a good chance we may get not a whole centric episode, but at least half the episode of maybe flashbacks of like how he encountered Khonshu and the night in Egypt and all that stuff, and that's where I think you could see more of her. I think she'll definitely link up with them at some point again, because it would feel really weird for her just to disappear. So I think one way or another she'll try to help. I like that Mark was trying to get divorced because he sent her papers, but then he's like, why you didn't even sign them? Like, what fucking mind games are you playing? But yeah, I liked her so far. Like the actors, I think it's the same thing as the scene where I felt like Mark could have been more clear, where she also could have like asked some questions more clearly as well too. It just felt like they're kind of pussyfooting around in that aspect. So I'll say I like her, but I'm still want a little bit more. Taylor, how are you and Layla so far?
I am very interested in seeing where this goes, because obviously, yeah, she's married to Mark, and there's this whole backstory of them doing missions together. But she is like high on the wanted list for Khonshu, whether that's just leverage on how he's handling Mark, I don't know, but she's aware of him using
he
the suit.
said
She's
something.
aware.
He said something about her being next or something like that at the end of the episode, which is very very
Khonshu
odd.
even reiterated that too when talking to him to persuade him to go to Egypt. So
Yeah.
there's no doubt in my mind that Mark going to Egypt is like, okay, I'm leaving Layla back behind. I don't want any connection with her coming along. I don't want her knowing anything about what I'm trying to do here. So that was reiterated throughout the episode. But I'm curious. Like, I'm very intrigued to see what's going to happen with her and what she's going to be doing, because she's definitely a capable fighter, because she was like fought that one like cult member off, and Steven was like, oh wow, that was impressive or whatever, and then she wasn't afraid of fighting an invisible jackal. So I mean, that's true. That's interesting.
Is that afraid, or is that just kind of like you have to do that? Because like if Moon Knight / Steven / Mark / Mr. Knight dies, it's just you versus the jackal.
True,
so
but I mean, she went and she smashed the bottle. She got picked up by the throat, and then she still fought it afterwards without having any clue where this fucker was. So she holds her own.
She's like still not convinced. She thinks Mark is just like totally trying to gaslight her or something. It's like, I don't believe
It's
you.
a really good mime.
Yeah, you bought that costume, didn't you, you motherfucker? Yeah.
She can also read hieroglyphs, so clearly she's spent some time in Egypt as well with him.
Yeah.
Doing
It's
some
not a
stuff,
common
so,
skill.
Yeah.
I
She was
did-
pretty good at it too, apparently.
I did like the little stuff too, that he's hiding the personality, and it feels like this is a situation where Mark Spector still loves her, but because of some danger happened, he's pushing her away. He even said that, like, don't get her involved. But I love that, he's like, oh, this is my favorite poet. And she's like, that's my favorite poet. So I like that Steven is this personality. Like, one of his traits is he's just, all his interests are what Layla's interested in. And obviously because Mark Spector is, like, kind of trying to, like, regress that, like, put it in the back burner and stuff. So I like those little touches of when she was going through the house, digging through his stuff. And it's just, it's her personality. So I like that. Taylor, I have a question. There's some based off you said. If she starts to date Steven, do you consider that adultery?
Well, that law of adultery is based on the person that you are, like the physical person you are with. If the person is changing different personalities, I mean, you're married to that person. I mean, human law in society doesn't really dictate that you're married to a consciousness. You're married to the physical form and identity of that person. So it wouldn't be adultery. It'd probably be really crazy too. I mean, if you're like mid thrusts and then they just swap to like the other personality, it's like, whoa.
Wow, mid thrust. Didn't think we were hearing that
Mid-thrust.
sentence tonight. Yeah. Let's see here. I like when the police showed up. He's like talking with Layla, and the police knock at the door, and she's like, "Who's that?" And he just looks at her. He says, "I vandalized the toilet." It was the way Oscar like delivered it. Man, I just really, really good. I think the thing I like about Stephen Grant, this version, he feels like he could be in Wallace and Gromit, and I really appreciate that. I think that's all the scenes and notes I have, other than like most of this episode was really creepy, which I like. You guys already talked about the what is it, the shack? What was the actual term I'm thinking of here that he was renting out? He had all stuff.
Oh,
in
storage locker.
Yeah, storage locker. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
the
all that
hallway.
stuff was good. Like the reveal was good as far as like obviously when Mark's in control, this is where he sleeps lightly. I like that you got everything there, and yeah, just Khonshu running around. And I think most of the time they're using like last week when they put Khonshu in the middle of that field. That's where I think his CGI looked the worst because it's in daytime. It's just on like bright greens. Where this episode was smart. They're putting him on like yellows and like darkness, and he looks better. So all that was good. The only thing that was weird was one point where he see Khonshu and the camera like froze and it flashed, and then he was on the street. I thought that was kind of a weird choice, but other than that, liked it all. So
That one scene in the storage locker when Steven was running, they did a quick cut like to look at his shadow, and it just had a crescent moon.
Yeah,
with the
that was
cape. It was really
cool.
cool.
yeah, that was really well done. You guys got anything notes or anything scenes to shut up before we call this a game?
No, everything for me.
There were some Egyptian score moments that popped off. They're very, very enticing.
You excited for the Spotify playlist when that comes out?
Oh, let's brew it up right now. Let's do it.
Well, there you
Make it
go.
ourselves.
Yeah, illegally. Oh, the episode ends in Egypt, so I imagine next week we're gonna get some Egypt-centric adventures. I feel like obviously Steven will be around, but I think we're gonna get a very Mark-centric episode as well, because considering it ended with him being in control, and yeah, I'm interested. Like I said, overall, I did really like the episode. The fanboy in me has a little like, I don't know about that, but
Oh, I know how that feels.
yeah. And luckily, it's not the same extent of Halo where I'm like, okay, I like it, I'll give him a shot. But there's definitely like I don't know. But the show overall is still really good. I like this episode better, and I can't wait to see where we are next week. So
Hell yes.
that's everything, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for tuning into episode 2 of Moon Knight Review. Episode 3 will be next week, and we promise you it'll not be boring.